people need this because there's so many victims in the world now. People that go through something and then they let that define them. What ketamine did for me is it allowed me to define my own story and not let the circumstances define my story, I guess, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like it changed your life?
Ketamine changed my life because I have now been able to learn self-love in a way that I haven't before.
I see you over there nodding your head. Are you relating to any of this?
What really brought me through your door the first time, what I was really searching for was to be able to feel like I was worthy of God's love.
That's beautiful.
Pretty fucking deep.
Yeah.
Why do I feel unworthy? I have a great life. I have awesome kids. I have an amazing husband. I have so much to be grateful for, but like deep down, like I don't really love myself.
Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patti, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jaimes Venciel. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Myself Wellness Podcast. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We have both Kerri and Jaimes. We treated both of them. They have amazing stories. We're so excited for them to kind of go back and forth, share what their stories were, and have us help them make sense of it. Yeah.
I'm excited. So I guess the story goes, just to give people some clarity, I did my first treatments about a year ago. I just did a refresher like a month ago now.
Something like that.
And then we met Kerri about 6 months. No, almost like a year ago now as well.
It's been a while.
And then Kerri, for you, when did you learn about what Myself does?
So it was actually at one of your events. I met both of you guys here in person, really just by chance. And hey, get to know you. You know, who are you? What do you do? And probably deep dove into a conversation I'm not even sure if you were ready for. But Charles
is always ready.
I mean, you started telling me, you said, oh, I'm doing Myself Wellness, this ketamine clinic. I said, oh, interesting. Like I know a little bit about it from my background, but like, tell me what you do. And you started kind of telling me about your story. And I said, hold on, I probably cornered you. So sorry about that.
Oh, good.
He liked it.
By the end of that conversation, I was like, okay, like I really need to know more. And that was January.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I went home and I feel like did what anyone does. And so you go down Instagram and you start clicking and watching and seeing what's going on. But yeah, it was through that conversation. I was like, whoa, I want to know more about this.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I do it. That's why I share my story so often, just because I feel like when I talk about it, it like brings the wall down and people will pull me aside and they'll be like, hey, listen, this might be something I'm going through. Do you think it might be able to help with that? And it really opens the door for everything. So
it's interesting because I talk about your story so often to other people as like one of those core foundational stories of people that have come from something that most people really wouldn't be able to come back from. Not from the sense of like being drug free, but then being able to do what you've been able to do with Myself Wellness, being able to, a lot of people are sober and miserable. You know what I mean? You don't have that mentality. You have a very high vibrational frequency. So when I saw that from you and I heard that story, that's what opened up my mind to say, I have all this baggage, but if somebody like that can go through the experiences that he went through and then come out the other side of this treatment and obviously the other deep dives with psychedelics, it's like, this might be something that could help a 25-year-old who's been through some shit, but also nowhere close to what you've been through.
I appreciate you, with saying that and showing the love and support always. But like, I really want to ask you a question. Because like I didn't get to hear this after that last, because you said you just came in for another booster or whatever, or another touch-up treatment. What happened during that treatment? Because the first thing that you said to me when I walked in and tapped you on, I rubbed your arm. I'm like, hey man, so tell me how it was. And you go, everybody needs to do this. Charles, we need to figure out how to get everybody how to do this. And I'm like, we're working on it.
It was super interesting because when I did the last set of treatments, the first, second, and third of my first go round were like the most intense, where I felt like I went the furthest, where I traveled really far. And then 4, 5, and 6, for me, I felt like I had my lessons and I needed to go out and start applying it. So mentally I was starting to like rush through the treatment, whether it was like just expediting it, trying to force it or control it. This time I came around and I was like, okay, the first thing that I did is I didn't do any caffeine for like the day and a half before. So like I cut it off early in the early midway through the last day, and then all day the day before. Didn't do any nicotine, didn't do anything that was stimulating. And so I went in and then I did magnesium before as well. And it was the first time that I went like the deepest I've ever gone. Like I felt like I was gone for like 2 months. And then I came back to the chair an hour and a half later. It was crazy. But what I got out of it was, I think you have to do it to understand it. The cultural relevance that something like this can have. And obviously being that, I'm running Grip Media, it's why I love working with you guys, because it's like, you feel like you're doing something good for the world to spread this. And this is why I'm always so comfortable talking about it. It's because it's actually helped me, but not to mention it just, I was getting these visions of constantly like, imagine everybody had the perspective that I'm having right now. Everything is nothing. We're all one. It's just like these constant things of like, your ego is really the thing that's blocking you between who you want to be. Your story that you tell yourself is the story that you tell yourself, and nothing more and nothing less. It's like all these things that go through your mind. And I just wish that's what I came out. I was like, people need this, because there's so many victims in the world now of people that go through something and then they let that define them. What ketamine did for me is it allowed me to define my own story and not let the circumstances define my story, I guess, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like it changed your life?
Yeah, ketamine changed my life, because I have now been able to learn self-love in a way that I haven't before. I've always had that problem with, it's hard for me to give out love in a way that other people can receive it. I think I love people in the way that I know I love them, but I can't express it. And I always wondered what the root of that was. And I've learned recently that it's more so I had a lot of self-love problems that I need to work through.
I see you over there nodding your head. Are you relating to any of this?
Well, it's kind of funny. Well, just going back to like the order of your journeys and like how impactful they were. And that is, so it's so fun talking to people, because, and that's what I like doing is, wait, okay, you've gone through this, and that, what was your experience like and how I relate it to mine, but it's also different. But for me, the very first treatment, I was told by Gina, actually, she was like, you're probably not going to see places or people or things, but just kind of learn how to experience this and just kind of go with it, and, prepped me really well. And there was nothing like the first 2 journeys I had were super visual. I was there for a very long time, and it was like the most impactful that I had out of the 6. And then 3 was really nothing, and 4, 5, and 6 were okay. But yes, like the craziest part about it is, right, intention setting. So what I've learned through the process is you're only going to get out of it what you need and what you're open and willing to receive. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard. I've had people since I've done this now ask me about it. And I'm like, well, we need more time. Like, we need to sit down, because I really have to explain it. I can't just have a quick conversation about it. But I would set intentions that I thought were the things that I wanted to work on. And that was maybe in like the front of my brain. Like, here's what my intentions are. But really my true intention was deep down inside. And I knew it, but I wasn't really saying it. But what ketamine helped me with was my true intention, which was self-love. Mm-hmm. And what really brought me through your door the first time, what I was really searching for was to be able to feel like I was worthy of God's love.
Steve.
That's beautiful.
Pretty fucking deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Deep.
real.
And it's like, that's where I have felt really broken for a very, very long time. And I'm not going to cry, but and that goes to self-love, right? It's just like, why do I feel unworthy? I don't know. I have a great life. I have awesome kids. I have an amazing husband. I have so much to be grateful for, but like deep down, like I don't really love myself. That's pretty terrible. So anyway, so it's hard to say like, yes, I went through ketamine therapy and it's taught me how to love myself, but truly that's kind of what happened for me. It showed me and it told me, it was like a feeling that was given to me from the very first treatment, in a very unique way, but it told me that it's always been you. And you are the one. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm the one? And that's kind of part of that, what do you call it? Like unpacking process and kind of coaching through it and whatever. I'm like, it's always been me. Like, what do you mean? But what it was telling me is like, you have the power. If you can change the way that you think and you work on yourself. And, I've gone through like this intense self-development journey since then. I'm reading a lot more. I'm deep diving into all sorts of things that I probably just didn't have the time for before, whatever, I white knuckle my way through life. So it didn't really matter. But all of a sudden felt that like, no, you are worthy and you already have it within you. So
I think it gives you a perspective. It's something I talked about a lot recently of when we're fixated on our own problems all the time, you never are able to think hard enough about why am I here? Like, am I on purpose? Am I doing something that's good for the world? Like all these bigger questions that I think if most people focused on those bigger questions, like where did we come from? Is God real? Like all these, what some people will look at it and be like, why is that important? It's actually super important because there's not an answer to it. Like there's not a written answer that you can just go into a book and read. It's all based on how you interpret it. So you get to, what ketamine did for me is instead of focusing here constantly on why my life is hard and why this sucks and why like I'm not like you're saying, I'm not worthy of this because I've gone through this. You have this sense of wholeness. Like I'm a practicing Christian. So I felt the sense of like, they say it in church and you don't get it until you do something like this. Like God is within you. Like you have a piece of God in you. And that is why the love of God is so strong, because he loves you like a son because you are his son. Like all that type of stuff that they talk about in practicality, you hear it as a Christian, you're like, that's cliche. Then you feel it in this journey and then you're like, oh no, that's not cliche, that's legit. Yeah. But being able to switch from I'm not worthy to I'm loved by God, I have a relationship with God, all these things. Now you're not so fixated on the little minor inconveniences that you go through in life because you look at it as a hero's journey versus a victim's journey.
Like a big picture.
Exactly.
Right.
You can zoom out and go, oh, this is exactly what you would do to somebody that you're trying to set up for a great, victory or a great win, or like somebody who's on purpose. If you're going to try to pick the hardest path, like Charles, how many times in your life have you just gotten, since sobriety, gotten kicked in the balls nonstop?
For sure.
But what's your perspective on that?
It's just molding me into the person I need to become in order to live the life that I'm supposed to lead.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
it's all happening to me,
not
for me.
No,
it's all happening for me, not to me.
And even like going back to like with what you said about when people are like, is God real? Okay. Like, why is that such an important question? Well, if I don't have clarity on what my belief or my faith is, and I'm sitting here wondering about that all of the time, that's consuming all of my energy. And so it's like, like with my dad dying when I was a kid, like that affected me in my whole life because I was just like, well, why did God let that happen? Is there a God? Like, and I believe because I want to believe, but I've always been, I got to see it to believe it kind of guy. And then after I had like a burning bush experience from psychedelics, it took that mystery out of the equation for me. And it's like, okay, well, you got your answer. Now what? It's like, okay, so you don't need to ponder on this huge mystery of the universe that consumes you all the time.
This is a known.
So now instead of believing okay, now what? So now what are you going to do with that? And then going back to the theme of what we all seem to be talking about goes back to a Dr. Ferber quote, which is basically, he told me, listen, man, love is the healing force. But see, the thing that I'm actually concluding from everything that we're talking about right now is that self-love is the healing force. Because until I actually love myself, I can't really love you, and I can't put that loving energy out into the universe. And so that's what ketamine and other psychedelics did for me. And it seems like it's rippling out and doing for so many other people, is it's giving people that loving energy from within themselves.
I think so too. And like kind of Jaime, what you were saying, we can be, so everyone defines success in a different way in life, right? Whether you get the job or the career or the family or the whatever it is that you're looking for in life, we all can define it different. But most of us, if not all of us, also want to live with purpose, right? So like, and that goes back to, I mean, when my youngest was like 4 or 5, she's like, why are we here? I mean, it's literally one of the basic questions that children have. They're like, wait, well then who's grandma's mom? Who's her mom? Well, who was the first mom? I mean, I get these questions all the time, you know? So it's just fundamentally, we always ask ourselves. And for me, I think I went around this. I usually don't do things linear. I kind of do things backwards anyway. But I grew up in a really small town in the Florida Keys. And I don't think it's like most other places as far as statistics, but 95% of my friends' families were nuclear families, mom and dad. Divorce rate was really low. And all of them were from religious families. They all went to church. They were all confirmed. They all did these things. And I was like a super outsider. I'd go to church with them if I spent the night on the weekend, but my family just wasn't a church-going family. So I think that's where I started telling myself, you're not allowed in there. You're not worthy. You can't do that. You know, it was like this... I don't know, these lies I told myself, I guess. And some of my best buddies and my best friends that I grew up with, they would talk to me. I mean, 2 of them, their dads were preachers down there. And there's like, you know, what if I'm right and you're wrong? My friend AJ, we would have this discussion on the way to school, like, why don't you believe? And why don't you come to church? And I just felt like, no, I'm not allowed there. I'm not worthy. So, and it's not religion. It's not Christianity to me. But as I'm here in Naples and Florida with a lot of successful people around me, and I'm at these events with healthy, wellness, Christian, successful, confident people around me. And I'm like, well, why can't I do that? I don't what's wrong with me? Kind of, and that's what, okay. So it's a bigger thing. It's God, it's love, and it's something I've been searching for all my life. And I've had this problem with all my life. And that's where I literally and figuratively have come to my knees, and I'm like, why am I not worthy? Well, now through ketamine, it's like I come out of this, and I'm sure my husband and other people are like, whoa. I said, whoa. I don't have to wonder anymore if God is real. I know, I felt it inside of me. I'm like, God is within me. And he's like, what? I'm like, within me. God, there's a piece of God lives. And I had this, like how you kind of talk about this like high view of the world. I'm like, not only that, in a really peaceful way, I've learned that like, I am so insignificant. I matter, but like in the scope of the world, like we are all just one little piece of the universe and we all work in harmony together. And like, I don't have to worry. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't have to worry so much about my problems or my worries. It's like, it's all taken care of, and you just have to focus on healing from the inside.
I'll piggyback on that because what you just said about your childhood resonates so deeply with me, because for me, I had Christianity, luckily, but what I didn't have was a consistent father figure in my life. So when I'm going to sports games, I'm going to this thing that's happening, that thing that's happening, I'm always asking my mom, like, where's my dad? When is my dad going to pick me up? Like 3 years old asking these questions. And you start to go down this path subconsciously of, I'm not worthy of having a dad. I'm not worthy of having somebody that's able to represent that role model. I'm lucky because I had coaches and I had people that would spend time with me and like show me the ropes of being a man. But subconsciously that destroys your confidence throughout your life. where it was until my dad passed away, it was a very convoluted feeling, but I felt at least somewhat grace of like, okay, now he's actively not choosing me anymore. You know what I mean? Like that actively not choosing to be in my life. But at the same time, you have all these questions of like, who is like, who was he? What part of me is him? Like, I'm trying to ask all these high level questions. And on my second treatment, I think you guys remember this, my second treatment that I did in ketamine, my goal was, my cousin passed away 2 years ago and my dad passed away when I was 15. And my goal was to talk to both of them because I had a lot of like unconclusive thoughts and ruminating things that kept pulling me away. And I remember like not joking, the way that I'm talking right now, throughout the entire 45-minute ketamine experience, I was literally having a podcast, or what felt like a podcast, with my dad, with my cousin. And I just remember asking my dad, I was like, why didn't you choose me? Like, why weren't you able to like be in my life? And he was like, that had so much more to do with me than it had to do with you. Yeah. I wasn't mature enough. And you know, in that sense, I believe in that spirit kind of like intersection, which sounds crazy, but if you've done ketamine, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's like the 3D reality, and then there's this
it's the bridge between worlds, man.
Yes. And I was talking to him and he's like, I'm proud. Not because when my dad died, he said, I'm so proud of you and blah, 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 like on his deathbed. And it was so empty because I'm like, you don't even know me. Like, you don't know who I am. Like, you don't know what to be proud of. This time, he was like, no, I've watched. Like, I actually watched you go from this point to this point to this point, from this spiritual realm. And he's like, I'm with you watching you do this. And that, when you get out of that, you feel on fire because you finally feel like you're not alone. Like you're accompanied by people. You're in this journey with people. And my cousin said the same thing. He's like, all those videos that we used to watch of people, it was crazy. He was like, me and him always wanted to be NFL players. And so we'd watch the NFL players do like the interviews and like whatever. And like, that's going to be us someday. That's going to be us someday. And he was like, it's so interesting to see the career path that you're in now, because it's like if we couldn't have been NFL players, we just wanted to be in media, to do like create cool stuff, like to do this type of thing. And he's like, I'm loving watching this journey. You can't get that in therapy. You can't get a therapist to tell you that this is what the person thinks. And even if they do, it's going to be so like empty. You're like, what do you mean? That's not real. But in this situation, I'm so confident because I had the conversation. I lived it. I am walking with it now. And I feel all of those feelings are so solved. And like, I feel so much more grounded in who I am because I was able to get that closure.
You know, I love that. And one of the things I really wanted to do is have a conversation with my sister, who passed away when she was 29, fentanyl overdose. Bad, dark spot in my life. And so after talking to people, I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'll get to have that conversation, a closing conversation or something. And so as much as I wanted it, ketamine didn't give that to me, but like kind of going back to like, it's going to give you really what you need and the true intention within you, not necessarily what you want. Now, not to say that might not ever happen, but I'm glad you had that closure, like, or, you know, that feeling, because I know a lot of people do get that.
It's what I've always realized about ketamine specifically, or like any psychedelic journey. If you go in and you're saying, I need this, give me. That's the wrong way to go about it from that perspective. You have to be open to everything. Like, I was open to the idea that I was going to go in there and I wasn't going to get what I wanted out of it. And it's that openness that I can't put a pin on exactly how I got that download, but I just
Ketamine.
Yeah, well, I can't put a pin on that, but I don't know how we got there. I think for people that are thinking about doing it, it's not a like, I'm gonna do it to get X. It's I'm going to do this to open myself up to who, like, for the truths to be revealed to me.
And what you just said kind of hit the nail on the head for me. It's like truths or truth seeking, right? And I believe that a lot of the people like in this group right here and the people that we treat and a lot of people that are using these alternative healing modalities are seekers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we're looking for answers. Listen, like I think that people getting together and, celebrating God and going to church, it's a positive thing for sure. But the fact is that I actually got everything that I was trying to get by going to church and all of that from taking psychedelics rather than I didn't get it there. I think it's a positive thing, but everything I was seeking or trying to obtain, through knowledge was actually given to me through the medicines, not by somebody telling me. It's like, it shows you the way, it shows you the answers. It literally gives you the messages from the divine.
That's exactly it. It shows you and it allows you to feel something that you can't ask someone these questions. You can literally only experience it. And that's why it's been really hard for me to tell people. They're like, well, how do you feel from it? I'm like, really good. Like it's changed my life. And they're like, well, how? And then, that's something else I can talk about, but like the visuals that you actually see, and it's hard to explain, like, well, I saw this, but I felt this. And now it's translated into my life like this.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, I think it opens your mind and your soul to now start experiencing life differently.
Yeah.
So for me, I think what will help me, and I've kind of gone down this path, is I'd like to explore religion because that's just something that's always been on my mind. But like I said, I've gone backwards. I already know. I don't really have to know the stories anymore because I already feel within me what I need to know. And so I don't know.
Go ahead.
You know the old statue of the guy and he's sitting here like this. It's like a really famous statue and he was called the Thinker or something like that, right? And it's like, but if you notice, he's just sitting there and he's like lost in thought like this. And it's because he's trying to figure out the universe. He's trying to figure out all the secrets of the universe, the world, right? And it's like, all of a sudden you get the answers that you're looking for and now you're not stuck like this anymore. You're like, okay, well now what do I do?
Now what? Now we know,
So
apply
it.
it.
It lights that fire from within you because you're not lost in thought all of the time trying to figure everything out, where it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that anymore now. So now and like that was something that was really weighing on me. So now I feel so much lighter because I don't have to think about that anymore. And now I can just focus on doing all of these positive things that are going to give me a better life. And I feel like that's what it did for me also.
The aspect of what you're talking about, Kerri, when it comes to like Christianity in the sense of practical, like I fell off Christianity after I was done high school. My mom would force me to go. And so like that was my kind of relationship to it. And granted, it was there for me in really dark moments when my dad died, when these things happened. But it's interesting coming from the knowledge of what it is to then all through college, like making fun of it nearly. Like, oh, like really? Like the burning bush? Like, come on. Like,
which was a psychedelic experience, most likely, by the way.
Yeah, well, that a lot of these. So now that I'm learning the story of the Bible and of all these different things, I question if a lot of these are psychedelic experiences and enlightenment through experiences, and that's why people were attracted to them, because they had higher vibrations. They were seeing things a little bit differently. That's the way I've started looking at things now.
Well, it's like in the old churches, if you look, like they'll be holding mushrooms. There's mushrooms
in the pane glass
everywhere.
windows and stuff like that. So like, it's going to get me in trouble, but I'm a big believer that a lot of the stories from the Bible are actually trip reports, like psychedelic trip reports. They found that the acacia bush that Moses was getting the divine messages from is actually full of DMT. So it's like if there's a burning bush that's full of DMT and he's sitting in front of it and breathing in the smoke from the bush, there's a very high possibility he was actually having a full-blown psychedelic experience while he was talking to God. And I know anytime I've talked to God, I was having full-blown psychedelic experience. And so like once I had that, I was just like, oh, this is what's been happening all these years. And like Dennis McKenna, who's Terrence McKenna's brother, he was, huge psychonaut, 5 grams of psilocybin, pitch black silence. He basically had a quote a while ago, and it was like, the reason that psychedelics are such a threat to like the establishment and churches and things like that is because like it takes the middleman, it takes the need for the middleman out of the equation.
If people knew how to access it themselves or feel it themselves. Well, yeah, I've gone down some of these different storylines and accounts and looking at different things. What was I going to say is, I got to come back. I was just right there.
It's so like when we're talking about this, like with religion on the subject though. So it's like, I don't identify as being Christian or Catholic or any of these things anymore. I'm a follower of Jesus. But see, the thing is that Jesus wasn't a Christian. It's just like, it's basically like, I don't want to really put a label on me that's going to separate me from anybody else, because then that's not the oneness. It's not how we all come together. And if you notice, most of the problems that end up happening in the world stem from the separation.
Division. So I kind of got back to where I was going. So with psychedelics and kind of the thought that maybe some of these stories may or may not, we don't know. No one knows, right? Why it's like right there. I'm so sorry.
No,
it's okay.
But what I was just thinking about, and something that I've gone through with Christianity in regards to how it plays into it, I think it's not a matter of, I think people that go to like church, and again, I'm do church podcast weekly. So like I'm practicing talking to these people on a weekly basis. The people that go to church to check a box for moral superiority, I talk about this on the show all the time. That is the bane of the Christian religion. It's the priests that stand on the stage and say, follow me. I know the answers. I have everything for you. Yeah. That is where it goes wrong. What I have found, and what I think everybody needs, you guys are like my Sherpas on Mount Everest that have helped me climb if life was Mount Everest, you guys are helping me ascend to the heights of my own self-consciousness, my own ability to achieve all these types of things. I think that's what the right pastors are, what the right churchgoers are. It's these people that are, some people, Naval Ravikant talks about it. He meditates so much that he achieves these, psychedelic-like states. Now, is it as intense as ketamine? I don't know. I don't think so. I would hope not. That's crazy. But there's a lot of different ways that I've seen that people have reached a state of enlightenment. But I think there's this beautiful aspect of social media is that we're finding out about all these different areas. And then when you start to put them all together, what do you get? You get massive enlightenment. So whether it's somebody who grew up in the church or somebody who grew up in the synagogue or somebody who grew up in, and they didn't feel like it filled that hole for them, they still had questions, whatever, introduce psychedelic therapy. If you're in a situation where psychedelic therapy, I know plenty of, like, you're one of the few people that I've met that have done psychedelics without the religious context and haven't become a complete egomaniac. I've met a lot of those people that like we know that everybody has a God inside of them, but some people literally think that they are the God.
Yeah.
Like all comes down to integration.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what's really important to have a good coach to help you process these things for sure. That's helpful. I did think of one thing. So like I said, me kind of coming in this backwards, but I know that I'm worthy. I know that God dwells inside me. And so now I'm kind of researching things on my own. And one of the things it's led me to recently, you'll like this, I want to get your opinion on it or your reaction, but I went to a series at one of the local churches here on Sunday to ask questions. It's like, believer, non-believer, you have questions, come. And I'm like, are they going to want to see me? I got a lot of questions. So I went there and I sat through the thing. And at the end, I had a small group of the table leaders and the preacher there, and I said, hey, so I asked, like, what does a Christian believe is your soul? Like, I want to really know. And I said, and do you believe that God is within all of us? And there was like 5, and they all go, no. And I go, what? Because it's like, it's a truth for me. I know this. And so I was kind of like, ooh, this is going to be tough. This is like but these are the conversations I like to have. But I'm trying to figure it out, you know?
That's what Jesus was teaching people, though.
Yes.
That's where this whole, I don't understand this. He was basically like, don't worship me.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
But that's so funny, because when you talked about what is it, it's like divide. And I was like, well, right there, I'm feeling a divide, because I know that every single person is worthy. I know that we're all connected in this universe in a very specific, special way. So anyway, it's just...
It's a system.
For me, it's like ketamine has allowed me to now discover things, have different conversations with a completely different context of what I'm thinking about it. And
there's a system that you think about, even sports teams. You're a Redskins fan. I hate you. You're a Redskins fan.
Yeah.
I hate you. I can't stand you. I'm an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Division.
Yeah.
Immediately. That's the same. That's a good-hearted person who probably loves their kids, who probably whatever. I have no reason to hate them. But in the world of
fun, but
some but no, I agree. There's some entertainment value to it. Like, I'm not taking away from that. But when you look at, like, that's what gets me so annoyed when it comes to Christianity, because there's so many people that are using, whether it's be the Bible or their own religious practices, as like I'm better than you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I had a moment like with what you were asking. No.
Contagious. Want to say whatever.
No. I mean, like, I'm kind of trying to. So it's like it's weird that the largest demographic of people that we have a hard time passing this message forward to are faith-based people.
It's crazy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, we have people having burning bush divine experiences at our facility almost on a daily basis. And like, it's consistently happening. Different people, never met, same stories. And so like, if that's happening, that's a really positive thing. Right. Mm-hmm. But I've never gone to, or I've never heard a story from somebody going to a service or whatever, and half of the people in the room met God all of a sudden, and they had these burning bush experiences. And so like
that only happens that I've seen. It only happens during worship. And the reason it's worship, and I literally experienced this last week, so it's funny that you said that. The way that the music vibration hits people, and the way when you're around a bunch of other people that are open-hearted, like truly open-hearted, not judging or whatever. I went through that. There's an aspect to it, but it's not in the traditional sense.
It's the energy.
Energetic communion that you're talking about raises the collective vibration of the place, which is why
worship is usually done in groups, because it raises the energy and the
100%. So it's a super positive thing, right? Mm-hmm. But like, so like, let's go back to like biblical times, right? Where they were most likely taking psilocybin mushrooms, which there's a lot of historians that think manna probably was a mushroom. It, appeared in the morning and was gone by night. What appears in the morning, a mushroom. What ends up drying out in the sun and disappears by night, mushrooms. People were eating it, talking to God. Sounds like a mushroom to me. The thing is that like a long time ago during services, they were probably giving people a holy sacrament, which would be like the communion that you're receiving in the Catholic Church. It was probably a mushroom. And they were probably having people line up and having the body of Christ or the psilocybin or whatever, and taking it and then having these mystical religious experiences. And like, I think that's why a lot of these plant medicine churches and things like that are doing these kind of ceremonies or whatever are probably having a lot of results like that as well.
I think it's a combination. I think there's, if your goal is to truly understand I went in high school, I took a theology class. So or not a theology class, a world religions class. So I got to learn every different religion. And when you start going down the line, it's a lot of similar stories. Mm-hmm. It is. You just can't escape it. There's a lot, but there's all these dividing lines of, well, no, if you believe this, then you're going to hell. Well, if you believe that, you're going to hell. And it's like there's just these division points at all different areas. And something just, again, I don't, what do I know? I just think there was probably a point during the course of history where people love individuality. People love that. So if there's this homogenous one size fits all for everybody at every stage, that there's no excitement. What do
people are more easily controlled.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of go down a different path of kind of where you're headed, but as humans, we kind of mess up everything. We have a really a tendency to do that. And so where people are able to, and that's kind of where I go back to, like, I am learning, okay, I'm on like a new journey, but like I am learning how to connect myself with this higher power, with my energy, with the energy within, and with God. And I'm finding out what's in the middle, right? But it kind of back to like, if we're able to access this on our own, what's the need for the middle? So I kind of feel like there's a lot of very good, and I hope to start going to church because it makes me feel good. And I have all these questions, but like, I do feel like when man got involved, that's kind of where the problem came, because we can all access God and feel God and all of that. I think through the help with psychedelics definitely helps that, right?
Maybe not man, but ego.
Ego, yeah.
Ego.
I like the feeling of significance and the feeling of superiority, I think, is the root of a lot of the evil that there is in this world.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when somebody decided what you were saying, Charles, about Jesus, I went down a rabbit hole with ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT some pretty crazy questions and it'll give you some wild answers. But I asked, what are aspects that people just accept as reality in the Christian world that aren't true from your perspective? And the first one it said was the fact that God brought Jesus down onto earth to walk the life that he walked in order to be a representation of the power within all of us. And what we created is we created this, and you'll hear people talk about it, a moral, like to picturesque moral version of what we're supposed to look up to, right? That's what we're supposed to do in terms of the context of it. But what it's turned into is I am not him. So I give myself the break of, I can't be perfect.
Oh, he's the scapegoat, man. It's like, listen, I sat down with a person that was thinking about doing treatments, very Christian-based person. And she basically went along the lines, because like I was telling her, like, I do my best to practice what Christ would have done, like to embody Christ consciousness. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, that sounds like you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. And
Bingo.
And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, well, because like Jesus died for my sins. So like, I don't have to be perfect because he already put himself on the cross for me. And see, like, that's like this whole, the analogy that you used where we're like the Sherpas that helped you get up to the top of the mountain. I think that that's the difference between organized religion and what we're talking about is because we helped you get to that point by empowering you to find the divinity within yourself. Okay. And like, because there is no hierarchy. We're all one. We're all on the same level playing field. And so like, and here's the thing, you ready? So if we're all one, then we're also one with Christ too, because Jesus isn't this one other separate person from the oneness of everything. We're all it. And that was what Jesus did. Was Jesus didn't sit here and preach to you and tell you, I know what's going to fix you and this is what you need to do. Jesus sat down with you and didn't judge you and helped you realize the divinity from within yourself, because he's like, we're the
same.
We're the same.
Yeah.
And you can even get to a higher place than I'm at. And that was his message.
Okay. Oh,
Go ahead. No.
Well, I was going to switch subjects. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And not to completely, but one of the things going into this journey, I mean, I was scared, right? And as my past as a nurse, and I worked in surgery, so ketamine was a drug that was around me all the time. I didn't know much about it, but anyway, coming into this, I thought, well, how do I learn as much as I can before my first treatment? Because I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, yes, I want to do this. And I'm like, wait, I'm really scared. And so I watched the Netflix documentary, Change Your Mind. And so I learned a lot, right? I've psilocybin, DMT. I kind of went through, I think 4 of the psychedelics or 5. And I'm like, okay, great. I finished that chapter. Let's get to the next one. Let's watch it. And I go, wait, they don't talk about ketamine.
I asked Michael Pollan.
And I was like so upset because I thought, well, I mean, I got a really good idea about how it's helpful in all these other ways, but that just was really strange to me.
So I actually met Michael Pollan in Miami and I asked him about it. And first off, ketamine's not classified as a psychedelic. It's a dissociative. And then I think that was more of the answer I got. But the truth is that I think it goes much deeper than that. Then I think, go ahead.
Yeah, let me jump in here because I thought about this. The last treatment I did, this is what I was saying where I had this frustration of like, because we've worked with you guys for what, a year plus, and you'd be surprised at how many different people work against the mission of what you guys are doing. And you think about it. Now, you'll have a person who does ayahuasca would be like, "You're doing ketamine? Really? You're doing ketamine? Well, I just spent, $10,000 and flew to Ecuador and sat in the middle of the woods for 5 days and puked my guts out for 3 nights in a row, and I'm fixed. I'm brand new." And I realized, I was like, okay, why is that so easily talked about and ketamine isn't? Well, if you think about it, I think the downloads are the same. I've never done ayahuasca, so I had no idea, but I think downloads are quite similar. Mm-hmm. But the barrier to entry for ayahuasca, up here. The barriers to entry for ketamine therapy, like, again, if you live in the greater Southwest Florida area, you could be struggling with some of the greatest mental health problems, addiction, all these types of things, and it's a drive-in. You park your car, you go in for maybe an hour, max an hour and a half, and you come out and you're a different person.
You know what's kind of funny about that? Like, I've, of course, heard of ayahuasca. I know people that have done it. And before I've even considered ketamine as the therapy or anything, I try not to judge, but I'm like, wow, that's probably something I would never do. Tell me more. Yeah. It wasn't really in my wheelhouse of things that I would ever really consider. For me, I don't know for whatever reason, but ketamine was safe because I guess maybe I'd heard about it more, maybe not in this way that it was being used, but I thought, okay, it's like you said, it's here, it's in a clinic. They have the practitioners, they have integration coaches. Like, it just seemed, I come from a, Western medical background, so it just seemed safe, I guess. But what ketamine has done is open my eyes and my brain more specifically to all sorts of things. So now I'm kind of on this journey for the rest of my life of how I can also experience and keep opening up and keep learning about myself and continue this spiritual journey through different modes that I hadn't considered before. So now
I do want to include that in the conversation, the non-silver bullet. I think people are hearing a lot of this conversation. And anytime I'm on the show with you guys, I always like to preface, I did ketamine last year with the sole focus of getting off pot. Didn't happen. Why? Because ketamine wasn't the silver bullet. You have to make the decision before you go in.
Yep.
When you decide, I want to do this, you have to decide that I'm willing to burn who I was to who I want to be.
Well, yeah, you have to be ready. Like, and that's what I think for some people that
changes. You can't just say, okay, I want to smoke pot, but then right after you leave your treatment, pick up your pen.
It's so like, I think that's a huge misconception for people, okay, is that even like when people watch me, right? So like people might get annoyed with me, and I've felt it before because they're like, oh, I'm so positive all the time, this and that. It's like you did the psychedelics and then life just got amazing and magical. And I need that, right? And it's like, no, dude, I fight every day.
No, you make the decision daily.
Yeah,
100%.
You probably have bad days still too, right?
100%. But it's not as debilitating as it was before. And so it's like, I don't always want to do, like, listen, like I just had surgery a couple weeks ago. I didn't really want to come in and do this today because like I just don't feel 100% like it's not that I don't love doing this, because I do, but it's just like just not really there yet. But she's like, bruh, like toughen up, put your clothes on, like, and it's like, all right, let's go do this, because it's a constant battle that we have to fight to keep on moving up to the next level always. And so it's like, yeah, ketamine might give you more dopamine, which is going to give you more spunk and energy to go out and chase after your dreams or whatever. But like, it's a daily,
you still have to do the work.
It's a choice.
It's every day I have to be like, I'm doing this. It's a non-negotiable, and not backtrack out of it and make excuses. You just do it.
Well, but that's the point of like what I think some people use psychedelics for. They use it as this scapegoat of like, I can't do it, so I'm just going to take this thing to be able to do it. And then when this thing doesn't work, I'm going to blame the thing and not myself. And the reality, and the uncomfortable reality, is that idea of burning your old self. Like I'm in this phase right now where some days it's really uncomfortable because everything that you used to rely on and fall back on isn't there. So you almost have to relearn who I am. How do I manage stress? Like stress is much easier to manage when you like after a ketamine therapy treatment, but at the same time, when shit hits the fan, it's not like all of a sudden you're like, oh, rainbows.
And what you said, like it's attracting truth seekers, attracting people that realize that they have areas of improvement, people that want to change, people that want a better life, people that want to heal. You have to want it. If you don't want it and you go in, you're not going to get anything from it, but you have to really be ready to take what's given to you and then apply it to your life, right? At least that's the way I've felt, because it's almost like I miss it.
What, the chaos?
Yeah, no, I don't miss chaos. I miss the ketamine, and not in a way of like, I just felt like I was just receiving so much finally and like learning so much, and I'm in a really good place. Like I don't need, I know like you've talked about, I don't know what you call them, like treatments, continued care or whatnot. I mean, I'm just out of this for a month, so I'm definitely not there yet. I don't need it, but the changes that came so quickly and the resources I was now given to be able to like incorporate into my life, I'm like, oh, I miss that. I want more, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when they talk about the tools that like you learn, like let's say you're an alcoholic and you go to AA, they give you these tools, or if you go to rehab, you have these tools in your tool belt now. And so if something comes up, it's like, oh, well, I know how to handle this now, right? I think that psychedelics really do that in a lot of way too. It's like it gives you this clarity and the answers that you've been seeking and the truths that you've been looking for, where you can actually really go in the direction that you need to go and have what you need to get there. But that being said though, like back to with what we were talking about, like, so like when I talk about I quit using opiates from a psychedelic experience, it wasn't like I was hooked on heroin and then all of a sudden I smoked DMT and I'm like, oh,
I'm cured.
I am 100% cured from heroin addiction now. It's like, okay, so I came out of the experience and I was like, oh, I got the message that I'm supposed to quit and I know this is what I'm supposed to do. So then after that, I got Suboxone, locked myself in a bedroom for a week at my mom's house, detoxed myself, awful withdrawals, total nightmare, you know, and then I started going to meetings and like I started hanging out with people that weren't out there using drugs and drinking all of the time and things like that. And so like it was a complete daily reprieve and change that I needed to make in my life on a continual basis. But it was psychedelics that sparked the flame that gave me the courage and the strength to actually move in that direction.
Yeah, I think so. I did a mushroom experience back in January, and something that I was doing it and I had this feeling, and this is where addiction comes from. Like I have very addictive patterns and tendencies and stuff like that. And I was feeling so euphoric in that moment. And I was like, damn, I got to go back to real life soon. Like I was like, this sucks. And then it almost like there was like this sense of like it was an awful feeling. Like you're just like, this is the peak of what I feel like existence should be. And now I have to come down off of it. This sucks. But then I was able to, during the come down of that experience, I was able to turn on some music and just like walk, kind of write some stuff down and jot these ideas down. And I started to literally, while I'm coming down, I started to go back up, like vibe wise. Like I felt myself go back up and I go,
That was your integration.
Yeah.
oh yeah. But I go, wait a minute. We can tap into this dead sober.
Yeah. Psychedelics without doing the work is like expecting to be fit without working out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bingo. So tapping back into that though, everybody has things that make them feel good, things that allow you to feel like you're getting more information. For me, if I go talk to people that, like when I get on the phone with you, I could be dead sober. Me and you could talk for an hour. And I'm like, I leave that conversation feeling more, I feel like my vibe rose. I felt like we talked about things that challenged the way that I thought. I felt like that I think is as impactful as the drugs themselves. It's like when me, you, and Mike get to sit around and talk about our experiences, and it's not like, well, yeah, I saw this thing. It's not just that. It's how does this apply to the greater picture of what we're all doing?
Right. Well, that's part of the surround yourself with people
Yes.
that bring up your energy level, right? I mean, we have to kind of rise together here. But can I tell you a little bit about the visions I saw? Because if anyone that I know watches this, this is how I want them to be able to know that it's not like you get this and this happens. And I thought, I mean, I always think I'm kind of a weirdo, okay? But I am, let's be honest. I came out and I guess what my expectations were was, I don't really know what I expected. I'm going to take this medicine and I don't know. I don't really know, but it's therapy and I'll come out. Well, like I said, from the first one, I started having these visions. And when I talked to Gina afterwards, she was totally helpful. But I was like, listen, I was in Egypt. And she's like, yeah, how do you know? I was like, well, I didn't know at first, but I was in these cave systems and it was like black, but not scary. It had like writing on the walls, almost looked like movie theater walls. But I was in a cave and I knew I was in a cave and I'm kind of floating from scene to scene and I'm watching this, but I know I'm supposed to be there. And by the end of that very first journey, this is how I knew I was in Egypt. I walked out there, I floated or whatever. I was outside and I'm looking up and the Sphinx, I'm looking up as the Sphinx. I wouldn't say it's being built, but it's like coming into my vision, right? And it's like huge. And this is where I was like, I'm embarrassed to say this because it makes me not only sound like a freak, but also makes me sound like an egomaniac. But I'm like, Gina, I was the Sphinx. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know, but it's like, it gave me this power of like, this just very powerful feeling. Now, how do I relate that to like, I now know that God lives within me. I know that the universe is connected. I don't know. It's not like this equals this, right? But it's through the continuous journeys that it all just kind of starts to make sense. And I journaled. You guys had actually told me to journal my thoughts, so I did. But it was like every time, well, the first 2 journeys I went on, I was in Egypt. And then 3, I didn't really remember anything. And then 4, 5, 6, I was always there. I was always in the caves. They were purple. They were, I had to look back in my journal before this today because some of it, unfortunately, kind of goes away, right? So you have to write it down. But I was ancient Egypt every time. I told you one time, I was like, you remember the gravitron?
Yeah.
So that was really strange, but at the same time, very comforting. And it was like, wait, I'm being brought back to this time period. I'm seeing ancient geometry. I am feeling and seeing these things that like are part of our history that I don't really know a lot about. Of course, I've learned it here and there in school, but like, why am I being brought back to this place?
It's a common theme.
But
and then I knew that from talking to you after. I said, wait, what's going on? You're like, not everyone, but there are people that go there. This is a theme.
But I think you're also the knowing who you are and seeing, like hearing that now, like being the Sphinx or like going through these amazing relics of like what humans have built. I mean, look what you personally have been able to build.
Oh.
No, I'm not like, it's no bullshit, but like what you built with, like for us to be able to be who we are as Grit, we needed what you have.
I like when we talk about these things of like, nothing really is by chance.
Nothing is by chance, but what we talk about with everybody when we talk about like the studio and everything like that, like your ability to create on a vision, like this is what I dreamed of when I thought about starting this company. I had no idea how to build it. You might not have either, but you just fucking ran your head through it hard enough for long enough.
Now you can know
figure it
I'm
out.
Sphinx, and that's why.
Exactly. But no, I think that idea of being able to create in these very enlightened ways is literally why we're here today. And like, I think it's only beginning to start. By the way, every single experience that I've had, Charles has been there. My last experience, you were there, Kerri, Christina has been there. Like there's this feeling and the sense, and why I love being on the show when I can, is the idea of like, we're doing something that's really important. There's a purpose behind what we're doing.
Well, so I don't know if you guys know this. I think you might know this, and maybe you do, but do you know what the actual meaning of the word psychedelic means?
No.
Mind manifestation.
Dang.
Okay.
Manifestation of the
A manifestation of.
Do you know how many times in the last month I've used the word manifest?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, and this is like where I'm at and what I believe, and like it could be wrong, could be right, whatever. You are the universe experiencing itself through Kerri.
Mm.
Yes.
Or you are God experiencing yourself through Kerri, just like Jaime is God experiencing himself through Jaime. And it's like, this is all just this massive dream or this experience of the universe or God, right? And so it's like, I've talked about it before, but one time on a ketamine, like on a decent therapeutic or psychedelic dose of ketamine, I was sitting there and the medicine was kicking in, and all of a sudden I fell backwards into this rainbow field of energy. And I was like absolutely nothing but energy.
Cool. Yeah.
And I was just vibrating. And I was just like, so like I was nothing, but I was everything. I was just pure energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, vroom, I came out of it. Like I sat up out of the energy field, and I was a different person in a different body in a different house, living with a different family. And I looked around and I'm like, nope, not back. And I fell back.
God, that's crazy.
I fell back into the energy field.
Whoa.
And then
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Came back out of it again. And I did that like 3 or 4 times, experiencing different people's lives in a different house with a different family. And then all of a sudden I popped back out as myself, Charles. And I was like, okay, I'm back.
Okay, that is so cool. And that is like, I love these conversations with you. Okay. You know, on all these deep dives, and you start to realize like we are all energy. Everything that we do, everything that we think, sound, matter, everything is energy, the world. Okay. And so energy is never created nor destroyed. It's just, so it's all these thoughts of the big picture thoughts. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Well, it's all stemming from energy. And that's why we are all part of this universe together. We are all experiencing this together. That is like the coolest analogy or story or journey, whatever you want to call it. Because that's essentially what I believe.
Mm.
Right.
And so like the thing is though, and so like when we talk about this stuff, and I'm not trying to be offensive when I say this to people that are watching, but like, you don't have a piece of God in you. You are. Because there's nothing separate from it. We're nothing separate from it. If you took all of the energy collectively that we're talking about, everything's energy, and you put it all together in a container, everything in that container is God. Okay? And so it's like the floor is God, the microphone's God, this TV screen behind us
it's all
is
been
God.
created. It's all,
Well, it's all the energy that collectively makes up the universe or God. And so the thing is that that's how powerful that we are. Because if we are manifesting and we're manifesting our own realities and we're the co-creators of existence, it's because this is just God having a conversation with God, pretending that we're not God, so we can experience the experience of life. And if we took all and if we took all of that, like that questioning out of the equation, then it wouldn't be much of an experience. We'd probably, I had this conversation with Dr. Ferber's wife the other day. And I was like, if we're all lit, and I was like, how come we're not just having one big God party and everybody's not getting along together?
Big God party.
But that would get old. You know what I'm saying? Like there would be no.
There's more challenges this way and more to figure out and find out, I guess.
Well, like, but then now you have
more of an escape room.
And now you have to ask yourself this question. Well, if that theory is true, then is God really the all-knowing, or is God learning through the experience that we're experiencing right now? And so like,
Yeah.
is this
Mind-blowing.
Constantly
is
learning.
this just the evolution of God
Yeah.
growing and learning and experiencing itself by doing everything that we're doing? So then like eventually once we level up as God, then we'll go from like this 3D kind of level of consciousness that we're at right now to, I believe that we're like in the midst of like 4D consciousness. And then ultimately they talk about, yeah, and there's even higher levels than that, but like 5D consciousness where everybody collectively raises their vibration high enough and does enough inner healing, because as I heal myself, I heal the world. So it's like, then all of a sudden, when we manifest together collectively from a healed enough place, we could manifest a utopia.
Well, and it's kind of like the tipping point, right? Because if enough people are healed and raise their energy, it will. Have you ever read The Tipping Point?
1%. It's 1%. Dr.
Okay.
Stephen Greer talked. Well, maybe
okay.
if you knew it.
I don't know. No.
So roughly nine.
I've never read the tipping.
So I haven't read The Tipping Point, but Dr. Stephen Greer says that if 1% of humanity or the population actually awakens, that it's enough to
change the world.
to make the shift. So we need to wake up roughly around 90 million people.
We can do that.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is though, is like, I've heard people joke around and it's like, oh, well, we need to put LSD in the water supply and stuff like that. It's like, no, because that's not the intention. Is like, it has to come from the seeking place.
Yeah.
It's like, now this is the thing where it's like, I can't force my will on anybody, right? Like everybody has the freedom of choice. And so it's like enough people have to be like, hey, like something doesn't feel right about this. I know there's more to this or whatever.
Well, that's what this is for, right? To try to share, because through these stories and people are like, well, wait a minute, maybe this could help me too. Maybe I'm open to this. And it doesn't have to be someone who needs to heal from something specific. It's like you said, could be truth seekers or people looking for purpose or just not feeling like they are living their best life or.
Well, that's the common thing I hear from people, and this drives me nuts, right? It's like, I'm not sick enough for that. Like, I don't need that. I'm not saying that everybody needs it, right? But like, I wish people would understand that ketamine isn't for broken people. Like, I mean, it's great and like, I don't even want to say broken people, but people that are still sick and suffering or that have a lot of trauma that they need to process through. Yes, it's amazing for all of that stuff. But like, you could take the most healed person on the planet and give them a ketamine treatment, and they would probably evolve into a better version of them.
What is it that you showed me that was like, we use how much percent of our brain, but with ketamine, it was lighting up
over 85% of the brain, like a Christmas tree.
Which is why you're seeing and feeling and hearing things that you never experienced because we're so
and you can't even
down.
bring it back.
It's the movie Lucy.
Right.
Have you ever seen it?
No.
With Scarlett Johansson? Watch it.
Okay.
She gets a research chemical.
Hey. Don't ruin it for her.
It's okay.
Well, basically, let's just put it this way. There's medicine involved in that movie that activates more of her brain than normal people can activate.
Well, that's what I don't think people will even understand what they experience and go through because they've never most likely have unlocked and woken up that part of their brain. So
a lot of people are sleepwalking through life.
Yeah.
The majority of people are sleepwalking through life. I think that probably
social media made it so easy. Take away like alcohol and like all these like lower vibrational drugs like opioids and stuff like that. Take that away. Look at just the pure amount of consumption when you think back to 2005 to now. How much of that time frame that is shrunk, that are available free time that is shrunk based on just consumption, pure consumption.
Yeah. See, there was this graph that I saw, and it was through the last like 100 years of social development, and for the first 75, all like it was a lot based on the family time, and then it switched, and children were spending more time with their friends.
Yep.
And as you go through the years, all of their time is now spent just on social media, and like family is like this, friends is a little bit bigger.
I was thinking about this recently where I've been obsessed with the idea of like the void. Like imagine you're sitting around the table with your friends and like you guys run out of shit to talk about because you guys been with each other all day. You're like, oh, that's super uncomfortable. Like there's just this sitting room of the void. And like our generation and younger generations are so untrained to deal with that's where it's like immediately boom.
Well, it's a defense mechanism. I don't have
It's a
like
comfort.
Study that like
Yeah.
that kids won't even answer the phone now. So people are applying for jobs. They're calling them for an interview and nobody will answer the phone
You've got to be kidding me.
because their social anxiety is so bad that they can't answer the phone.
And you think about that, like how much of the information that we talk about, I was asking the guys this the other day. I was like, somebody was like on their phone and they go, yo, did you hear so-and-so got traded from the Yankees? Did you hear? Crazy. That's crazy. And now a 15-minute spiral conversation started. Nothing wrong with that. I think, again, entertainment is entertainment. But that blocks the conversation from the ones that me and you have. That blocks the conversation of like, why are we here? What are we doing? What is our mission?
But
what is our purpose?
That's the system. That's the matrix. It's like, if I keep you distracted with all of this stuff, then you won't actually figure out what's really going on. And this is where the divide and conquer and separation. I mean, like, I know we're coming to the end of the show, but like, it's like, and I'm not saying I side with any of these things. I'm just throwing examples out here. You got like Catholic and Christian or Catholic, Jewish, different religious sects, right? Then you have Democrat, Republican, you got black, white, gay, straight. It's like the entire system is rigged to keep people
fighting
and going like
down.
This. See, here's the thing. We're never going to get anywhere until everybody realizes that they're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because
total accountability.
It's total accountability because the only way that I can transcend any of this is if I go in and do the inner work. But if I keep on pointing my finger at you and saying you're the problem and it's okay, do all of like I'm perfect and I'm totally fine because you're the problem and you should be doing what I'm doing, then it takes the focus off me.
If you're pointing at someone else, you're not doing the work inside.
No. And the truth is that when you're pointing at somebody else, it's actually you identifying a part of your shadow that isn't healed yet that you need to work.
Well, I was literally just going to say, I talked about this in church the other day. The people that are closest to you are like your mirrors. They're a direct reflection of who you are to the world. And we try so hard to change the immediate people that are around us because in a lot of ways that's part of ourselves that we don't accept of our own being. Mm-hmm. And we live in this like kind of we can't respect ourselves enough to try to fix it in us. So then we feel like the fixers of, if I fix it in them, that's going to make it easier for me. Mm-hmm. Doesn't work that way. You have to fix yourself for then them to see you, the reflection of who you are once you change that aspect of your life to now be able to live that for them to go, maybe this is what I should do. We're not even sitting here saying you should do psychedelics to change your life. We're sitting here saying, change my life. I know that for sure. And if somebody else is looking for a way to change their life, this would be a great option on the Rolodex of things in personal development.
Well, and kind of going back to the integration that I received, it was like, Gina had told me, hey, you are not only healing yourself, you are healing people around you. And that kind of relates to that, right? Because the people around me are feeling the effects of what I'm going through. Yes. And they have. Hey, Kerri, what did you do? Can you tell me more about this? Or just watching or hearing my stories, people notice. And then it kind of starts to change them and their thoughts. So yeah. I agree with that. I think that's the same kind of thing.
Well, that's that rather than through promotion and through attraction thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm going to embody it and I'm going to live my life to a way where, I'm being so honest and genuine and coming from a heart-centered place that it's going to attract people and they're going to be like, listen, man, like, I'm depressed or I've been going through something or whatever. And it seems like you're in a really good place in your life. Like, what did you do? Like, what's your secret? How come you're always so happy or whatever? And then you can talk to people about stuff like that. And it's like that. It keeps on rippling out because
the ripple effect,
the ripple effect because you're embodying what you preach.
And I hope that every single person gets to the point in their life where they're like, it's time. And it might not be the time for everyone now. And maybe people don't reach that point. I don't know. But my hope is that everyone can get to the point where they, you know what? It's time for me to heal. or experience something better or look within or do the work within, you know?
I think this was a great episode. I think we're getting
thought-provoking
yeah,
episode.
for sure. We're gonna definitely have to sit down and do another one of these.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the My Self Wellness Podcast. And just remember, if nobody's told you that they love you lately,
We
do.